Welcome to the Knitted Wardrobe. My name is Jenny and it is a delight to have you here in the Knitting Nook. And today, if you would like to fill your time with knitting, yarn, lots of colour work ideas, design inspiration, and a lot of stuff about knitting, then you have come to the right place. So if you want to grab your hot cold beverage, grab your knitting, grab your crochet, put your feet up on the sofa, we will get cracking with the fourth episode of the Knitted Wardrobe. So it's a joy to have you here today. My drink of choice today is coffee by the Foundation Roastery. They are fantastic. They're a micro roastery, not brewery, down in Cornwall, and I love their aesthetic. If you go over to their Instagram account, then you will find just surfing, coffee. What more do you need in your life, really? I mean, if you've got that on your feed, everything is good. Finchley is here today. He's prowling around, so if you hear some meows, that's him. And yeah, so yes, if you'd like to go onto my Instagram account, that would be fantastic too. I'm the_knitted_wardrobe, and it'd be great to have you there. We have an amazing community on Instagram, and on Mondays, we meet up at 10:30 in the morning to do Instagram Live, and it's great fun. We talk about all things knitting, how life is going, and there is a real beauty in the community that's growing there, and I just love it. So today, what are we up to? We are talking about the launch of the Cornish Paths Sweater, which you guys, you just knocked it out of the park. Thank you so much for your support in that launch. I just can't believe it. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit. We're going to be talking about some works in progress, and we're going to be talking about colour work design. So let's get cracking, shall we? So, what a week last week was. We had, I think it was Storm Syrian or something, I can never pronounce it. It was one of the named storms. And it was on Wednesday, the 1st of November, because that's when the Cornish Paths Sweater went live. And it was such a day. It was filled with energy. We had I was on such a high. It was phenomenal. You guys absolutely, I can't thank you enough for your support. It was phenomenal. We were looking at all the stats, Finchley and I. I say we a lot because I never feel like I'm on my own with this journey. We've had Rachel Prest, who is just like tech editor extraordinaire, amazing community on Instagram, phenomenal test knitting group. We've got Jeremy doing all the production for the podcasts. We've got Finchley. So I say we because it's never a solo effort. I've just got an amazing team who's always got my back. So yes, that was that. But I was looking at the back end of the website and looking at the orders coming through, and I never ever thought that I would be on Ravelry with my own pattern, which is just incredible. And also I never thought that it would actually happen. It was kind of like this lovely little project, the Cornish Paths Sweater, which I had been kind of like nursing for a while. It first appeared on my needles back in September 2022, and just the process of it kind of like being frogged twice because I just didn't like the design in the beginning, going to Rachel with the design I had and what we have now, it's just such an amazing kind of like journey. I will try and put some I'll ask Jeremy to put some photos up here of kind of like the timeline of what it was. But it was definitely kind of like, it was originally a pieced sweater. So front, back, sleeves separate. And then it never had a roll neck. It was just kind of like a roll, just kind of like a normal crew neck. And I hated that, and it had a waist shaping, didn't like that. So that it was all ripped out. And then finally in June this year, when I was on a sea kayaking holiday down by the Lizard in Cornwall, I just cracked it. And it was just like, yes, twisted rib, It was hem, knit bottom up. And the only shaping is a choiced shaping, actually. You don't have to do it. I knit on 4mm needles for a twisted rib hem, and then 4.5s for the body. And that hem just tucks in a bit just to get under a walking jacket. But you don't have to do that. You can do your own hem, obviously. You can mod that. And there's instructions for that in the pattern. And then this amazing cable and moss stitch up the body. And then Gansey style gussets underneath the arms, fitted arms, and then this wonderful roll neck. And it just came together. It just kind of like tumbled. And that journey of tumbling was fantastic. And because of the support that has just been outpouring for the project, we can now safely say that there will be 4 patterns coming out next year from the Knitted Wardrobe. So I'm delighted with that, and I just want to thank you. So yeah, it's been a great week, and although Finchley had some fun and excitement in the storm and went missing for a bit, he's back home and now trying to work out how to get onto the seat with me. I really don't think he likes the coffee he's sniffing at the moment. Hey, buddy. So this is where I get pushed off the seat because he'll come and sit behind me, I think. Hey? Hey, buddy. So, what have we got? We've got works in progress next. So, let's get going with that. Finchley with us. I'm just crawling over the sofa. Sounds good to me. So, right, what have we got now? We've got some works in progress. We've got a couple actually, and I thought I would start with The Girl's Best Friend by Isabele Kramer, which is just down here. So yes, if you've been following me on Instagram, and if you saw the last podcast, you'll know that this is the Isabele Kramer shawl, A Girl's Best Friend, and we've fallen out. It's a beautiful knit. I mean, I just love it. And the colour choice, I'm still really happy with. But yes, it's been on my needles for about 5 weeks now. And between home, work, coffee house with friends, pub with other friends, and just travel, somehow I lost the pattern page that I was working off because I print my patterns, I don't have them on my phone. And I sat down to knit one evening, dreading another busy line 7, I'm not going to lie, which is this part of the shawl, there's no place where you can rest. There's no line where you think, yeah, I've got it. You have to think about it all the time. And at the moment, I'm on something like 300 stitches, which is a lot. It takes about 45 minutes for me. I don't know if I'm a slow knitter or not. I'm just a knitter. But it does take about 45 minutes to do one row of busy row 7. And I sat down to knit one evening and realised I had lost the pattern. I could have printed out another page, but I haven't. As I said, I think it was either on the last podcast or on Instagram Live, if it wasn't such a beautiful yarn, Telling Yarns, her Resolute weight base, I probably would have given up quite a while ago. But for now, I'm just going to put it in a corner and it's going to go on timeout. I'm just not in the mood for it. I just need a really easy knit and one that I don't have to. I think the thing with knitting is that I have a very busy full-time job. I've been doing the Knitted Wardrobe. The Cornish Paths Sweater came out and I learnt a lot through that. And the main one is that this all takes a lot of time, right? So that means that I need to be with people. I really have missed my friends and I want to spend time with them. And normally I would meet them and knit, but with a project like this, I can't be present with them whilst I'm knitting, and therefore it's not useful for me right now. So this is going to go in the timeout corner, the naughty corner, and I may pick it up over Christmas and it may be a Christmas knit, but for now we're going to say goodbye to that one, so you won't see it again for a while. I use Knit Pro needles, so the cable will stay in there, or I may put it on, no, I don't need the cable. I'll take the needles out and just put the stoppers on. And that's what I love about the Knit Pro interchangeable needles. Every cable comes with stoppers, unlike Chowgu. And you can just kind of like take your needles away with you. So you don't have to worry about that. The stoppers are amazing. So last night I was watching Lily's podcast, Hester and Lark. If you haven't found Hester and Lark, please go and follow her. She's, I think she's actually from the next county down. So if you take London and then you go down to Surrey and then you go down to Sussex and then you hit the English Channel, I think, so I'm in Surrey and I think she's in Sussex. So one day I hope to just meet up and say hello. But yeah, I was watching Hester and Lark. I had apple crumble in the oven and it was all very kind of like, very autumnal actually. It was a nice autumn evening. And I have been chatting with Yvonne from the Baytree studio. She was a phenomenal test knitter for me, and she's an incredible woman. She's so generous with her time. But the week the Cornish Paths Sweater went out, I saw that she came out with her Equinox Cowl, which is on Ravelry. You can go down on Ravelry and purchase that. It's Baytree Studio Equinox Cowl. I'll link it in the description below, as with everything. But bless her, she sent me very kindly a copy of her pattern, and I cast on yesterday, and I just love it. I've already made modifications for it because, so this is, I'll go through it now. So this is Molly at the Burrow, which is a beautiful golden, it's got some blue in there, variegated yarn from Telling Yarns. You'll see a theme with Beth's work today. She's definitely the string that pulls this whole podcast together. But yeah, Molly at the Burrow. And this was, I don't know if it was, oh, it looks beautiful there. Just so gorgeous. I don't know if, where is her actual skein of yarn? So here it is. So yes, this is a 50% Exmoor Blueface, 30% Blueface Leicester and 20% Wensleydale. It's a British 4-ply fingering weight and it's hand dyed, as is all Beth's work. And it's part of the British Mill series spun at John Arben Mill in Devon. I don't know if you can still get this. I found this at Stitches and Cream down in Falmouth when I was there in the late spring this year. And it's, colourway Molly at the Burrow, and it's a 50-gram skein. I brought 2 for a project that actually I didn't like in the end. So fortunately I had enough left. And yes, it's going to be the Equinox Cowl. The modifications I've made already is that if you look at the photos on Yvonne's pattern, it's a very roomy cowl, so it has a beautiful drape. And as you guys now are getting to know, I'm only 5 foot and I'm quite short, and everything I make is a bit little, so which caused a little bit of a problem with the sizing for the Cornish Paths Sweater before Rachel got her mathematical brain on it and sorted it out for me. But yes, I make everything a little bit smaller, and I like my cowls to fit a bit closer than normal. So I cast on the amount of stitches that is stated in the pattern, and she's got this beautiful invisible kind of like way of, when you join in the round there, she's got a really simple technique to make that invisible so you don't have that step. So that's all written out really clearly. Just do what she says. It's great. But yes, I cast on the right amount for the single cowl. So she's got a double cowl where you can wrap around, so it wraps. But this is the single, and she recommends a 375 needle, I think. I've knitted on a 3, so it's already going to be a lot smaller than what her pattern has been called for kind of like the finished measurements are. So this is going to be a really snug little cowl for me, and it's, you know, it's really stretchy enough to get over my head and then just sit underneath the coat. So I'm happy with that. I just don't like, it's like with scarves and shawls, I actually like the feel of them on my neck. I don't have them baggy. So I'm happy with that decision. Also, I think with the thing that I love about telling yarns and raw wool, their micron count is phenomenal. So although this is a very sheepy sheep, it's non-superwashed, I have really annoying Celtic skin, which just reacts to everything, but I don't react to this. And I never thought I'd be able to wear raw wool, but these guys are proving me wrong. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. Hopefully this will be finished by the next one. I think it's just going to be 3 nights TV knitting and we will be done with the Equinox cowl. But I will definitely try and get that done for our next meeting together. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of it, actually. The pattern is really well laid out. There's a beautiful, Yvonne's a graphic designer, and not only has she done the charts so you can follow it really easily, but each stitch is color coded, and it was this like light bulb moment. So when you feel like which one's that, if you're a color person, you can follow it really easily, but it doesn't just detract if you're not a color person. So yeah, phenomenal, really happy with that, and a nice little kind of like project to get me going over the next couple of weeks, because my needles are empty apart from this now, and that's because I've been playing with a lot of yarn. So if you want to talk about colour work, now is the time. That's what we're going to be chatting about. So, a lot of you will have seen the podcast last time where I was talking about the colour charts from Alternate and Knitovation by Andrea Rangel, and I just wanted to kind of like follow up on that really, because I've been really inspired to cast on some colour work lately. There's definitely a design that I would like to have in my head, and I would like it to be my Christmas cast on. And to do that, I need to start planning it now because, you know, life. So the questions that I got after the last podcast was like, how do you start? It's all very well kind of like saying, well, yeah, you can make your own sweater. But how do you kind of like do that? How do you swatch it? How do you kind of like create it? So the process that I'm about to share now is exactly what I do for me, because I'm in the middle of doing it. And I will be showing you all the mistakes that I make, which is why it takes a couple of kind of like goes at designing to make sure that everything sits well. You can change your choices really. And so this is going to be based on either Knitovation or Alternate. These books are fantastic and definitely ones that I think show a lot of inspiration. And what I like to do with them is kind of like take what Andrea has written here and see where my own designs are going and kind of like pull inspiration but then create my own. So yeah, these books are phenomenal, and if you don't have them in your Stitch and Read library, then I think you should definitely get them. This is the first one, Knitovation is the second. It's just in the other room and I'm not going to get it now. So yeah, these books basically have so the bees, bee patterns, leaf patterns, and she shows you the designs next to the knits. so that you can kind of like knit them yourself at home. And a great way to start this is actually by doing a cowl. So you can say you've got a 12 stitch repeat on the pattern that you're about to do. You just cast on multiples of 12 with your gauge swatch and just knit that. And cowls are probably the easiest way of getting into creating your own colourwork knitting designs, because then you can choose the amount of ribbing you've got at the bottom. So like with the Equinox cowl, I think there's only 6 rows of ribbing. I've chosen to do 10 because I wanted a deeper kind of like amount, and also, you know, my gauge swatch was very different. But when you're making your own kind of like one from scratch, you can totally change the ribbing, any patterns, and then put your colour work on top. So what we're going to do is have a look at what I was doing at the weekend. This is the Merchant and Mills Maker's Journal, and I advise these a lot over on his Instagram. I think they're fantastic. The reason I like them is that they're actually kind of like accordion style journals, and you can fit a lot in here and it expands with you. So you can put all your samples in there, you can put all your notes. And this Sunday I actually started a new one, and I drew my grid out, as is my wont. Normally I have square paper, I just didn't have any, so I just drew the blocks out and made a 14 row repeat with, I think it ended up being a 27 row repeat. So yeah, 14 stitches, 27 rows, and started sketching out a really basic leaf design and then a second leaf here. And yeah, spent about an hour doing that and working it out, and it was a good start. It was a good start. And I had 2 yarns that were on my pin board, yarn samples that I really love on their own. So it was Molly at the Burrow, which is the Equinox cowl, and also Raw Wool, which is the Shepherd Silver, and that was that sample. So I had both of these staring at me, and I thought, oh, they look quite cute together. I wonder what that looks like. So they have the same, and this is where I think sample and gauge swatches are just mind-blowingly useful. So when I get a new skein of yarn, I always ball it up and I just gauge it. It doesn't matter if it's got a pattern coming, it doesn't matter what happens. When it comes into the house, it gets gauged. And so I knew that Molly at the Burrow, that was knitted on 3mm needles, was a 7.5 stitch per inch, or 27 stitches for 4 inches stitch count. And Raw Wool on 3mm needles was exactly the same, bar 1 stitch on the 4 inches. So it was 28 stitches for 4 inches. And that 1 stitch wasn't enough for me to go, they won't match. It was just like, yeah, those two are pretty much the same. It could have just been the mood I was in when I knitted each swatch that changed that 1 stitch. So I knew that these were a match before I even kind of like came to think about it. It was just there. The information was there for me. So I thought, well, I'll just cast on and see what happens. So having then worked out my multiples, I tried to do some maths. In all honesty, my maths was totally off. I don't know what planet I was on, but I obviously got something totally screwed up in my little head on Sunday afternoon. But I was able to make a good enough sample that was then knitted up into colour work. So if we start with the leaf pattern here, I don't know if you can see it, that one down there, I wanted to get that at least swatched to see what it looks like. And so that's what I did. And this is what we ended up with. And you can barely see it, I think. But yeah, there are the leaves. And I cast on using the raw wool, and I cast off using telling yarns. And I always like that anyway. I always know that my the direction of knitting, so you knit up, and the direction of knitting is always when the cast on and cast off yarns are on the left. So yeah, but anyway, there's the swatch. I steeked it, so I knit it in the round, and we'll put some video here of steeking it, and then steeking is just cutting up the middle of your work and then catching all those knit stitches and then finishing them off. I obviously haven't wound anything in. It was blocked really well, and yeah, it just neatly felted at the back. Obviously, if this was a finished project, I would have kind of like neatened it off and then just sewn it down and made the ends beautiful. But this is just an information swatch, and the information it gave me is that I didn't like it. I didn't like the lack of definition on the colour. So when you're wearing a sweater, you need to work out what you want it to look like, obviously. And I think for me, wearing this, so the leaves will go this way down because it's going to end up being a very particular style. And I wouldn't have decided the style of the sweater until I'd seen the swatch. So these leaves, I want to go downwards and trail down. But yeah, the stitch definition for that is just not enough with the shepherd silver from raw wool. And I really love the shepherd silver. I've got enough for that for a sweater without any problem. That's just like not going to be an issue. And I thought I may have enough of Molly at the Burrow to do kind of like one round of repeats, one round of pattern even on a top down kind of like colour work sweater. So proper yoke, then down. And seeing this, I thought, well, no, I don't like the colour and I don't actually like the leaf. So what it's allowed me to do is know that the two yarns together, so the Resolute base from Telling Yarn and Shepherd Silver from Raw Wool, they work together beautifully. There's no colour leaching from the dye from Beth's work, and because raw wool is just raw wool, there's no leaching from that either because there's no dye on it. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Telling Yarn and I'm going to purchase 3 skeins of Witches at Work, which is the most beautiful kind of like greeny, citrony, autumnal golds colour. And I'm going to design a sweater where I think I'm going to choose maple leaves and have them quite big at the top, and then they change sizes all the way down and just fall at the bottom. And because I'm now thinking actually I need to buy skeins for this project rather than using my scraps from, well, not scraps, they're full skeins, but using my yarn stash for that, I think I've got a little bit more freedom with the design, knowing that it's going to work. And all I have to do then is work out some proper maths, do another Colourworks sample with that, with Witches at Work, and then it's a lot more simple. But I just wanted to share with you that you can do the Colourwork. I know a lot of people do samples where in Colourwork where they do just a swatch, like a square swatch, and they bring their yarns at the back for each row and then start again and then kind of like loop it. I found that actually it doesn't give you a very accurate stitch count on your gauge, because the way you hold your yarn for knitting in the round is different if you just then loop it and then knit it and then loop it and then knit it. It's not the same. So I think and also with samples, you get to learn things like steeking and picking up and finishing off and doing the thing. So I think samples are definitely the way that I personally go. So the other way of doing it is I was actually playing around with some designs for a pattern that's coming out next autumn equinox. So it's coming out in September next year. And I was just playing around with shapes and tension and all the rest of it. So this is actually a square swatch, which has been knitted back and forth. So I actually pearled the back to make sure my tension was correct. So this is Oost wool, which is the darker side, darker yarn, and this is this is Kate Davis and her raw white wool. So I was just playing around with different undyed, kind of like very sheep wool. And yeah, this is a great swatch. It gave me all the information, a very simple square pattern, which was not part of the actual pattern that I want to release, but I just wanted to know how they worked together and how they sat together and what 2 rows would do to the rest of it. Because if you're thinking of doing colour work here, that's all great and dandy, but you actually also need to work out the stitch count in stockinette, and you need to be able to know that if you're going to block that on quite a strong block, when you pin it out when it's drying, you need to make sure that the colour work isn't so tight that it cinches in your stockinette, because then you get these kind of like really weird, kind of like, if you're dragging the fabric tighter through this part, but this is the stockinette part is quite normal loose, you're going to have some really wavy patterns going on. So you need to check that as well. And this one grew into this swatch. So this is half fisherman's rib or full fisherman's rib. My information on it's on the desk over there. Yeah, it's full fisherman's rib, and it's great. So this is a reversible rib that I was thinking about. So on the back, it's the other side. I really like it. If I've got a brioche pattern in front of me, I will just do fisherman's rib. I think it's far simpler and much easier to frog back. So yeah, this was done on the same needle. So this was done on a 5mm. So again, this is Oost for the dark and Kate Davis for the white. And what I wanted to know was if the fisherman's rib here was going to change the gauge for a hem, was going to change the gauge for the stockinette, and then I was looking at how that was going to work for the, again, a potential cinch for the colour work, and then how I was going to do a collar. So this would be quite a basic gauge swatch for working out a sweater, and it gives me every single bit of information that I need to know. The increases and decreases here, so well, actually just decreases, how I was going to pick up between the collar and the main body, what that was going to look like, and also the depth of kind of like 8 rows on the collar, how that would look on if we were going to just cross that and make a proper V, how I was going to just work with this yarn. And for this took me an hour and a half one evening. I didn't have a pattern in front of me, I just made it up. And also I think when you knit like this, you just write as you knit, or I do anyway. That's normally my design process, is when I'm working on something like this, each row I'll just write down what I did. And also it's good to know that actually putting a V in a cardigan means that I really have to work out that shaping for the shoulders, because what you don't, if this has the potential to be have a hood added to it or not. So I need to make sure that my shoulder shaping from here accommodates not just a collar but maybe a hood, depending on what the knitter would prefer. So this is by no way what the finished design will look like, but it's a really good working test of where my head is at, what I like, what I don't like. I don't like the white predominant here. I actually prefer the dark. I'm definitely not squares. It will be a different design. And yeah, I just pearled the back on this as well, which is also why I just did squares, because purling colour work in squares for this size is absolutely a doddle. Whereas if I was purling all of this, I wouldn't do it, in all honesty. I always like the back of colour work. It always looks quite cute. So yes, that's my kind of, I don't know, thoughts, ideas on colour work. I don't know if it's helpful or not, but I think my encouragement is for you to really get to know the yarn in your stash. It's not going to take long just to kind of like wind up a cake of yarn, get it on the needles and spend an hour, hour and a half, 2 maximum, doing a really good working swatch, or just a swatch. So you have these in the bank and you've got your kind of like your information cards here. And I know with this one, so this is Camel Yarn by Hannah. This is Intertidal, which is definitely a massive inspiration for a summer project for next year that I want to get on your needles. So this is 5mm. Stitch count is 5 stitches per inch, or 20 stitches for 4 inches. And the rows are 7 rows per inch and 29 rows for 4 inches. And the reason why I think it's good to write down per inch or as well as 4 inches is 2 reasons. Most designers, I mean, it's kind of industry standard to have a 4-inch gauge swatch in any pattern to make sure your stitch count is correct. I like knowing how much is per inch because you are able to modify you're able to modify anything on those numbers. You can do any kind of like sizing with an inch. And yeah, I just like to have it written down there in front of me, I think. And also the row gauge. So I'm 5 foot and that's quite short. So if someone is saying knit 50 rows, I can then work out how many inches that is for their row gauge and work out how many rows that I want to do for mine and my yarn. So it allows you to create fabric that fits you, which is why we do this. My Princess Fiona sweater is not going to fit you because actually I cut the pattern off by, I think my pattern notes is 4 repeats. So it was actually quite long, but I wanted it to hit right on my hip bone. And yeah, I think it's just good to know your maths and or at least have the numbers there so you can work it out. And also, so this is raw wool again, this is rum and raisin, whereas this one is dark and stormy night, and 5mm needles, and actually they are exactly the same stitch count. So they are 4 stitches an inch or 19 for a 4 inch. Very different yarns. This one's really kind of heavy. The drape is really solid. This one's really floaty with a really open weave. So I was going to maybe think about using those together, but actually, although they're the same stitch count, the drape is different. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. If you've got an open weave and a closed weave, they're not going to work together so well on the same needle sizes because you're going to get bits with whole, kind of like a gauzy bit, unless that's what you're going for. But on classic colour work, that's probably not going to be helpful. Also, with the Sheepy Sheep raw wool, it's really good to keep in mind that those are the ones that you can steek. So you can cut them and you can kind of like do the thing. Whereas if you're on a bamboo, merino, superwash, anything slippy, that's not going to felt, so that's not safe to cut it. So only do it on non-superwashed wool. So yeah, that's my thoughts on colour work. Also I have these on pin boards in my design space and they allow me to really think about the work that I'm going to do. What does that mean for you? I don't know. But if you have swatches surrounding you and kind of like a track of where your thoughts are going, I think pulling out patterns from Ravelry and seeing designs on Instagram that you really like, you can then go, oh yeah, no, I have that in stash, that's going to work with that. Or you can check your gauge swatches and kind of go, well, actually, if I have that at that gauge and I want to knit that, but it's different, which needles do I need to change sizes? You can do a lot more customization, I think. I would be lost without these hanging around my home and my design room. They're just really helpful to also kind of like concentrate my mind on what I want to spend my time and my money on. Because each, we talk a lot about knitter maths, where if it's in stash, it's basically free, which I would love to believe. Believe me, I've definitely been there. But if you're going to invest the money and the time to create a hand-dyed, beautiful sweater that's going to take you about, 150, 200 hours to knit, make sure you get your maths right. Because and also make sure you get what you want. So I actually began on Sunday thinking this is exactly what I want. I want these leaves, maybe a double row of them on a yoke, Christmas cast on, Bob's your uncle. I've come so far from that with just a simple investment of drawing out some grids on a piece of paper and doing this. And now I've got a very, very different sweater in my head, which is going to be great. And I cannot wait. So it's going to be, just top down, but the whole thing, even the sleeves, will be colour work. And it's just going to have a really simple knitted roll for the neckline. I can't remember where I read it. It was somewhere wonderful, probably someone's post, blog, Instagram, YouTube. But they were saying that the rolled necks that you see on ganzis were knitted like that. So you could literally, once they had been lived in enough and they were looking a bit ratty, the knitter could pull that collar out and then just knit another kind of like 6-10 rows of just knit stitch, and then it would just roll over and protect that. So I think I really like that, and I like the look of it as well. I quite like an open neck, and then I think it's perimenopause as well, just kind of like you get a bit hot sometimes, so an open neck is actually quite useful. So that's where I'm at with the knitting and the samples and kind of like my design ideas, and hopefully by next time we'll have some more to talk about with that. The next 2 weeks are filled with a bit of relaxation. I'm actually working part-time this week, so I can think about the knitted wardrobe a bit, kind of like calm the design space after the Cornish Paths Sweater, and really enjoy just being in that moment. I'm meeting friends for coffee and going out for a couple of dinners, going climbing again, which I'm really looking forward to, because that's the other thing. I haven't been able to climb much over the last 5 months because I've been working during the evenings, and the support that you guys are giving me has given me the courage to step down to 4 days a week at my day job. So I will be working 1 day a week at home in the design space for the knitted wardrobe, which will mean that everything that's taken kind of like the evenings can be done during the day. So I can actually relax and rest and be with people and have a much better work-life balance for the next patterns that are coming out, which is great. If you're part of the Knitted Journal, which is a great group of people who receive the email each Saturday at 9 a.m, I write a journal entry each week about what's been going on in the space behind the scenes, and it's where I put a lot of news out. And if you're part of that, you will have received this weekend's, which has there's a couple of projects that are going on here at the Knitted Wardrobe, and the journal peeps get at least 2 weeks notice on that before it goes live. So if you want to be part of kind of like a very niche community, which is growing each week, which is fantastic, but that's also the only place that you get pattern discounts for pattern releases, and all the news comes out there way before anything else on the podcast or on Instagram. So go over to the knittedwardrobe.com and you can purchase the Cornish Paths Sweater there. You can sign up to the Knitted Journal and find out all about that. But yes, the next 2 weeks I am just kind of like solidifying the details on quite a major project, which you guys will find out about next episode even. And there's another couple of things that I'm kind of like playing around with in the background. I am going to get cracking on my Equinox cowl. I've got a Sunday coming up where normally I would have been working on pattern release stuff, but now I can actually relax on Sundays. So I'm going to be making a pair of trousers, I think. My sewing machine needs some attention, as does my wardrobe. So I will be sewing for a couple of weekends, I think. But yeah, life ticks on and it's just great to be with you. Thank you for letting me share all that's happening here at the Knitted Wardrobe and yeah, just kind of like my design process. It's really lovely to be able to sit down before I even turn the camera on and work out what we're going to talk about and the themes that are really exciting me that will hopefully excite you as well. And yeah, I just get a lot of inspiration from that. So hopefully we will catch up next time. It's great to be with you and thank you for liking, subscribing and sharing and commenting. I don't know what this algorithm thing does, but each time you do it, it means that we grow and it allows just more people to be part of this wonderful knitting community here at the Knitted Wardrobe. And yeah, I just am really thankful for all of you who want to talk about different aspects of knitting, not just kind of like the works in progress, finished objects and the yarn acquisitions. I find it quite daunting actually sitting down and breaking that very familiar podcast theme. And so thank you for your support and yeah, sitting down and listening to me talk about things that really excite me, because I really hope they excite you too. And I hope they inspire you to design your own knitting. That's the main thing. As a designer, I am a strong believer that all of you can create your own sweaters for you. You may not publish them, that's not the point, but you can create a wardrobe that you love and that you really want to delve into, and you really want to get to know a bit more about the techniques behind what the knitting patterns are telling you to do. And I think that's fantastic and it's great freedom. So I will stop wittering. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you, and I shall see you in 2 weeks' time for the 5th episode of the Knitted Wardrobe. Have a great couple of weeks. May your knitting needles bring you joy and your frogging be rare, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.